name is Sonia Smeared. I'm 21 years old. I'm a junior at St. Olaf College studying biology and political science and an active participant in Minion's work. I'm grateful for the opportunity and honored to speak to you today. I grew up in Finland, Minnesota, along the North Shore of Lake Superior. As a child, I saw Mother Moose and her calf walk right through my yard. Driving Highway 1 to see moose was no big deal. We saw them at nearly every sunset. Going home now, I rarely see moose, and I know I'm not the only one. My generation is experiencing a Minnesota that is changing at an unprecedented rate. If something so iconic to this state is experiencing a population decline that baffles researchers, I'm concerned at what else we may be unknowingly affecting. I'm concerned about Minnesota's future. I first recognized my affinity for the environment in the wild places of the Quetico Superior region. Through my time at St. Olaf, I have come to realize how much wild places can teach us and how important they are as we move forward in community. Strong communities like the rural town I grew up in are one of Minnesota's claims to fame. The story of Lake Wobegon would never exist without a powerful community narrative, a narrative fostered by a connection to the land. The environment I fight for, that so many youth fight for, is more than the land under our feet. It is more than our backyards. It is our neighbors, our friends, and our families. To me, preserving the ecosystems I love is a no-brainer. I want to see a secure future for ecosystems where there is no endangerment of key species. I know that this isn't a unique perspective. There are many Minnesotans that have an outdoor ethic like mine, that have spent time searching for moose on Highway 1, deer hunting with their dad in November, or paddling the lakes of the Boundary Waters. There are many Minnesotans who have spent time organizing for sustainable behavior on college campuses like I have. I saw them at the Next Generation Environmental Congress a few weeks ago. All of these Minnesotans value the land. They have an outdoor ethic, and the outdoors will directly feel the environmental decisions we make today. Aldo Leopold once said he was glad to never be young without wild places to be young in. Right now, I am terrified that Leopold's fears were justified. I'm scared that the boundary waters I knew will someday have muddy waters, Lake Superior will fail to yield native fish, the Norway pine will have migrated to higher latitudes, and the native prairies I've come to love while in college will have turned to dust. I'm terrified my children will never connect to the wild places of Minnesota like I have. To me, an outdoor ethic is an environmental ethic, which is Minnesotan. We're one community that is ultimately fighting for the same thing. The youth of Minnesota have an environmental ethic, but we're not delusional. I'm holding a smartphone that required mine copper. I drove here in a car. We're aware we need these resources to function in society. Like many youth, I have an intimate connection to the idea of our land as a resource. At home, debates make jobs and the environment appear mutually exclusive. At school, I've seen farming and the environment conceptualized as stark enemies. We clearly see the importance of economic stability and preservation. But as much as I care about the resources we utilize now, I also want an environment that we can continue to find value in when I'm 65. The unprecedented rate of change we're currently experiencing won't just impact future generations, it will acutely impact our lives in this generation. We want to preserve Minnesota for the future, but we also want to preserve it for the present. As committed as I am to this movement, I'm also scared any action I make isn't going to make a difference. At some point, legislators and those at administration levels need to make greater steps than small behavioral changes. Someone else needs to care too. Because this isn't just about behavioral changes. This isn't just about climate change. This isn't even about the boundary waters. This is about being Minnesotan and how we treat other Minnesotans. We treat this state, this planet, as if we have another one to go to. Who wants to mess up their own community once they know what they're doing is wrong? Because the apathy that I see applied to Minnesota's environment is wrong. We are interdependent with the environment, not separate from it, and how we treat the earth is ultimately how we're treating ourselves. I believe I fit a lot of Minnesotan stereotypes. Generous, passive-aggressive, self-deprecating, Minnesota nice. But I wouldn't consider our current environmental actions as Minnesota nice. Despite my fear for Minnesota's future, I am encouraged by our dedication. More so than most generations in this room, the youth of Minnesota have grown up experiencing unprecedented yet now commonplace behaviors that benefit the environment. Recycling, reusable grocery bags, and Energy Star appliances are all I have ever known. I am encouraged by these steps, and have felt empowered by Minnesota in many ways. And although I continue to be inspired by my love for this place, what really keeps me motivated is fear. Fear in Minnesota will fall to pieces. I want to know that the Minnesota we as youth have experienced will continue to be around. It is Minnesotan to care about the environment. It's the land of 10,000 lakes, the star of the north, and a treasured resource of our nation. We have a responsibility to protect it. This is why I care about the environment. Here are some other youth voices.
Dominique, age 20. I'm a descendant of the Assiniboine tribe of Native Americans, and I feel connected to my ancestors that lived on this land and shared the environment in solidarity. I think now more than ever is an inflection point in worldwide sustainability, where the success of the 7th generation really depends on every decision we make. I hope here at the Environmental Congress, we collectively choose to make not only good, but great decisions that will make the future generations proud and inspired.
Sarah, age 19. This country needs to invest in renewable energy now. My fear is that we will not be competitive with other nations if we continue to rely on dirty fuels, especially oil, which we can no longer afford. Our economy has become unstable for too long, and I don't see a way out unless we change our outdated approach now.
Kristen, age 18. We have discussed environmental issues for a long time now as important, but now is the time that they are truly becoming urgent. We don't have the flexibility to deal with environmental issues later, especially when our society is starting to see the effects now.
From students at schools all over Minnesota, we have been working to transition our campus's food service to rely on locally sourced, equitably employed, and sustainably managed food systems. We have been working to make our campuses as self-reliant of food systems as we can through urban agriculture, rainwater collection, meals from community gardens, and campus compost.
Melinda Kowalik, age 24. I don't want you to look at me and see an environmentalist. I want you to see a person with concerns for my future and the future of my 1-year-old daughter.
Andy, age 24. It makes us embarrassed that the U.S. is holding the rest of the world back in combating climate change. We don't want to be the villains in this story, but we are now, and are perceived as such internationally. As young Americans, we want to improve our global standing by committing to strong climate action now.
Thank you. My name is Roger Gardner. Thank you. Thank you for listening to all of our voices here. My name is Roger Garten. I'm 26 years old, and like a lot of you out there, I am a native Minnesotan. I'm a graduate of the University of Minnesota. I've got an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering. And like a lot of folks my age and my generation, I graduated at a time that was exceedingly difficult to find employment. So to gain some real-world experience, I turned to volunteering. I found an organization called the Rural Renewable Energy Alliance, or REAL, whose core mission really resonated with me. Thank you very much for those of you familiar with the organization. REAL's core mission, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is to make solar energy technology accessible to people of all income levels, and to fight what's known as fuel poverty. Many of you may not be aware of the term fuel poverty. Fuel poverty is a state of poverty in which a family or individual is forced to choose between how warm they can afford to heat their home this winter, while also being able to afford their basic needs of food, clothing, and school supplies for their children. Now, when I was a college student just a few years back, I was not very wealthy. I was, in fact, very poor, like many college students are. I remember my first house. I could really only afford to heat that house to about 51 degrees. Now, I slept in the back bedroom of that house, and I remember a couple of very cold winter nights waking up to find that a thin layer of ice had actually grown on top of the drinking water that sat next to my bedside. At that time, I thought this was normal. I thought this was the status quo. I'm a poor college student. This is this part of life, right? I was unaware that fuel poverty is such a widespread problem in Minnesota and across our nation, and was also unaware of some of the federal programs that are trying to prevent this issue. The federal government runs a program called LIHEAP, or the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. The LIHEAP program administers a service called Energy Assistance. The Energy Assistance Program is designed to supplement the heating bills of qualifying low-income families or individuals. But this service has an inherent problem. It's cyclically dependent. A family or individual needing energy assistance through the LIHEAP program this year is very likely going to need energy assistance next year and the future year and again into the foreseeable future. So the organization I work with, REAL, want to develop a long-term sustainable solution to addressing fuel poverty. So we started a program called Solar Assistance. Similar yet very different to the Energy Assistance Program, Solar Assistance installs and provides solar heating systems for qualifying families at no cost. These heating systems will help supplement these families' heating needs. They will empower them, make them more energy independent, and they will also break their demand on the Energy Assistance Program. Now, why am I up here talking about poverty? This is an environmental summit, right? I told you 3 years ago, I joined REAL as a volunteer to gain some real-world experience. I've succeeded in that. I've gained my experience, but the reason that I'm still working day and night with this small nonprofit over the last 3.5 years is that I still really believe in their core mission. To me, renewable energy means more than just in the environment. I see renewable energy as being jobs, as being good-paying jobs in industry, manufacturing, research and development. It means energy security to me, avoiding and reducing our dependence on foreign and imported fuels and stabilizing our energy prices, helping to avoid costly energy spikes. But above all else, renewable energy is a real social issue for me. I see renewable energy as just being one more tool which we can use to fight poverty and all of the adverse effects associated with poverty. So I implore you, when you're considering administrative action, think not only of today's environmental impacts that your decisions may have, but think also of the future environmental and economic and social impacts that your decisions may have. Now, I'm just one voice. I'm just one person in my generation who's working out there today on behalf of the environment. There are thousands of other youth out there working in a variety of different means. Renewable energy is just one tool we can use to protect the environment. There are thousands and thousands of other ways we can do this. So I encourage you, let's listen to some more voices of Minnesotans. Thank you.
Okay. These quotes were taken from the Next Generation Environmental Congress. Kayla, 22. I will be graduating from Bethel University this May. On campus, I have been involved in a number of efforts to reduce waste through a plastic bottle ban and a campus-wide compost initiative. Off campus, I have worked for the state on invasive species management along the Mississippi.
Patty, age 23. I've been coordinating a campaign with hundreds of students at 10 colleges across Minnesota who have been urging their administration and board of trustees to divest all assets in the fossil fuels. Education institutions should be transparent with their finances, be held accountable for profiting from industries that hinder our ability to combat climate change, and be invested in companies who strive towards a sustainable energy future.
Christy, age 23. I am one of over 1,000 young people from across Minnesota who has contacted my elected officials and urged them to support a resilient and healthy future for us by passing a strong omnibus energy bill this session. This is a critical step forward in reducing the threat of climate destabilization.
Mikey, age 21. I have been advocating for state funding to expand our transit systems as a part of my internship with a local nonprofit. Minnesotans want public transportation to be the norm. We need transit that is accessible to people of all walks and wheels of life.
My name is Juan. I'm 23 years old. I'll soon graduate from the University of Minnesota as a Bachelor of Chemistry. My laboratory research in environmental water chemistry seems like a noteworthy validation of my love, knowledge, and concern for the environment. But I submit to you that what validates me more is that I am a youth invested in the future. I stand before you as a delegate of the youth. We, the youth, anticipate a future, and this future extends beyond semesters, graduations, and fiscal years. We aspire to lifetimes and generations. We stand before divergent paths toward triumph and sustainability or failure from squander. If we do not actively choose success, we default to catastrophic failure. I'm not here to stand up for what we want. I'm here to stand up for what we absolutely need for a hopeful future. You must make relatively moderate changes now to avoid forsaking future generations. You must acknowledge that we face serious, imminent problems, and solutions cannot be taken lightly. We convene here together for duty and in honor of the environment. You must recognize that neither you nor the economy is independent of the environment. We all belong to a continuum of existence, so do not succumb to divisive binary perspectives. We can fortify the economy and the environment together. Sustainability must underlie all of our collective behavior immediately, not now, or not next quarter, not next week, and not tomorrow. I plant the seed in you now, and you must foster the life of this mindset. Minnesota once had fresh air, fertile lands, and thousands of pristine lakes. What do we have now, and what will we have soon? Please acknowledge that we are not endowed with, but rather import fossil fuels. Fossil fuels provide us with easy energy, but they simultaneously poison us and leave us vulnerable. They will not be around much longer, and we must start acting like it, or future Minnesota will be caught with its pants down. Furthermore, the fact that the current atmospheric carbon levels already threaten our future challenges us to abstain from fossil fuels before supply decline leaves us no choice.